Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sydney and this is Storytime with Sid. It's nice to have you all here and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below and just hang out, have a good time. I talk about books. So today I'm going to be doing a tag called the Pax Panic Tag, and I was tagged from MJ from Reading This Life, but the original tag was done by Pax Panic, and I will link her channel down below. And again, she's the original creator of this tag, and I'm really excited for this tag because I really don't know what books I'm going to talk about. I was watching MJ's and I was like, I literally have no idea what books I would choose. So here we are. Hopefully I'm going to choose some books here. Hopefully I don't run into any that I don't have a book for. But there might be a lot of thinking going on. So anyway, stick around and we'll get right into it. Okay, so the first prompt is Arachnophobia, a fear of spiders, and you're supposed to name a book with a ton of characters. My first choice would definitely be the Stormlight Archives Brandon Sanderson, but there's actually like not a ton of characters really. There's like a couple like main characters, but so far I've only read the first one, The Way of the Kings, and it doesn't have a ton of people. I thought it was going to be way more complicated, but my second choice would actually be Malice, which it's flipped around, you can't see it, but it would be Malice. I underestimated the importance of the characters in that book. I thought like he's throwing a lot of people at you that you don't really need to know, and they're not really going to be important, and now I'm on book 3 and I'm like, yeah, that person was important. Thankfully he has like a summary of all the characters, so that is really helpful, but yeah, I would definitely go with either of those. I have not read it, but Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World or the Wheel of Time series, I know it has like something like 2,500 characters named in the series, which is like one of the most vast fantasy series of all time. So I would imagine that probably trumps everything else on here, but yeah, those would be my mentions for that tag. This next one is called Coulrophobia, a fear of clowns, and you're supposed to name a book with a ridiculously or / funny scene. Whew. This is really hard because I read a lot of fantasy, and so there's not a lot of like humor. I think I'm actually gonna go, this is gonna surprise people because this is a weird one, but I think I'm actually gonna go with The Witcher, and specifically the Baptism of Fire. There is a scene in the Baptism of Fire at the very end where Geralt of Rivia ends up explaining that he just literally randomly chose a place to be from, and he chose Rivia, and he's not actually from there, and he's known as Geralt of Rivia, and he ends up fighting on behalf of the Rivians, and the Queen of Rivia ends up knighting him Geralt of Rivia. And it is just a wonderful scene, and he's just like, are you kidding me? Like, now I'm actually Geralt of Rivia. And it's just like a really well done scene. It's really cute, it's really funny, and just like kind and soft. Like it's just overall a really funny scene. But honestly, any of the Witcher books, any scene with Dandelion or Dandelion, however you pronounce it, he is a wonderful character, and any scene that him and Geralt are in, it's just worth reading. Okay, this next one is called Acrophobia, a fear of heights, and name a book that changed your view. This bad boy right here. This is The Poppy Wars by R.F. Kuang, and this book I mean, it's gonna be years before I can read this book or this series again. There are several scenes in each of the books that are just unbelievably difficult to get through. I actually ended up reading out loud one of basically the scene from this book, and if you read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, to my boyfriend, and he was like, I feel sick. Like, I feel physically sick. And I was like, I also feel physically sick, and I couldn't read it without crying. So, but besides the really difficult scenes, this book in particular just showed the real reality of war. Like, it just showed the true, like, brutality. Like, it's just so apparent in this book that this is what war is actually like. And unfortunately, we think of war as something that's a little bit less brutal and gruesome, and it's not. It is this. And if you read this for nothing else, please read it for the themes of understanding that the wars that we have going on around the world are even more brutal than this. So this really changed the way that I look at war, and I understand it a little bit better because of this book. Okay, this next one is Trypophobia, fear of holes, which I actually have. They creep me out. Some holes are fine, some are not. But anyway, name a book with a plot hole. I might have to go to Goodreads for this because I don't know. Okay. After literally scrolling to like the first book that I logged on Goodreads, I think I'm gonna have to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It is not a book that I like, and if it is a book that you like, good for you. I'm happy for you. That book holds a special place of anger in my heart, and yeah, like, I don't know necessarily if I would qualify it more as like a plot hole or more just like I'm missing information. It's like you have Addie LaRue and she literally just doesn't evolve over like 300 years of her life. And yeah, I think that's a little interesting that at no point at any time in her extremely long life she just like is like, I want to become a better person. Yeah, not the book for me. Not the book for me. And I think there's just so many like random subplots that don't matter to the actual book, and it's just a wacky book. It's just a wacky book. It made no sense to me. It was extremely predictable. I thought the premise sounded amazing, and then I read it. I actually bought the hardback version and read it and returned it. I did not like it. Yeah, so that would be a book for me that just missed all around. I think there are so many things that the book could have done way, way, way better, and unfortunately that book just was a big miss for me. Okay, and the next one is Mysophobia, fear of germs. Name a book with the best symptoms / infection. Ooh, okay. I have two for this actually. The first one's going to be The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This one is like Earthbenders, End of the World type book. But there, later on in the other books, you have symptoms of like, it's terrible, but they start turning to stone. Like if you use your abilities a certain way, you will start to turn to literal stone. And it's quite gruesome, but it's also described extremely well, like the weight of the stone, the pain of the stone that you're turning into. All of that is super fascinating, and I thought it was just described extremely well in this book. Well, I guess not in this one particularly, probably the obelisk gate and the stone sky the best, but I think it was just done really well. Like, it's kind of horrific, but in like a really slow burn, like, oh, that sounds terrible. Like, it's just a very slow process, and it's something that you can't get away from. You can't not turn to stone once you've started the process. So I think that is a really, really, really good like kind of terrifying symptom or infliction that happens. And then the second one would actually be the Way of Kings. Shallan and her drawing and like the the symbol-headed people. There is like specifically a scene in here, I can't remember where it is, it might be in the second half, but there's specifically a scene in here where she is drawing and they're like getting closer and closer and closer to her. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Like, I literally get goosebumps every time I think about it. It was so well written, and you're terrified. You're like, this is a horror story. Like, it's like the perfect like horror, like written, where it's like they slowly are getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and you don't know what they want, and you don't know who they are, and you are terrified of like why they are there at all. So that's a really, really good one. Not necessarily like an illness or a sickness. Well, I guess, I don't really know. I don't know. They haven't really talked about it. But that is really, really well done, and that scene just like sticks out in my head of like terrifying, and I would not want to be her, is all I'm gonna say. The next one is Astraphobia, fear of lightning and thunder. Name a book that hit you hard. This book right here, The Hero of the Ages by Brandon Sanderson. Every time I think about this book, I'm like, what? This book, in my opinion, is absolute genius. I think it's wonderful and incredible. And I'm someone that, like, I consume a lot of media, so I consume a lot of TV shows, movies. I think that's what Game of Thrones does so well, is that it has that immense shock factor. And for me, this book had every single shock factor. I did not see any of this coming, which is really difficult to do for someone like me. I tend to see things coming, and I didn't see any of it coming, which is why this book just hit me so hard. There's so much of it that connects back to everything you've learned through the last two books, and it's like, oh my god, it all makes sense if you knew what you know now. It makes perfect sense. And this book just is incredible, and I will die on that hill. Okay, this next one is called Enochlophobia, a fear of crowds. Name a book with a place, group of people that you hate. My first thought definitely goes to this one. This is the first Law trilogy, but the Blade itself. This is the first book in a trilogy, and there's a particular character, which if you read it, you know exactly who it is, that you would hate, that you just hate. Yeah, he's just kind of annoying, and In a lot of ways, there are people that absolutely love him. And I do have to say that the second book, for me, completely redeemed his entire story for me. I felt like it was not a completely different character, but just a deeper look at the character, where this one was kind of more of an introduction. And I feel like the point is you're supposed to not like them. And actually all of these characters, every single one of these characters in this book, you don't really like. There is not a single one that you're like, that one's so good and such a good person and like a hero, and yeah, there's just not any of that in this series. And that is who comes to mind first. But like I said, he does kind of redeem himself. That is the Panic Tag by Pax Panic. And let me think. The last thing you're supposed to do is tag people. So I think I'm going to tag Chatty the Mad Chatter. She's the wonderful. I love getting to know her, and we have some we have basically the same taste in books. So I would love to see her opinion on these prompts. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to tag Percy Does Everything. She is awesome, and I could literally, I commented on her channel and I said that I could listen to her read out of a phone book. She has the best accent and the best energy. Please go give her a follow and just enjoy her wonderful energy, and I just love her. She's a great human being, and I love watching every one of her videos. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna tag Shaken in My Boots. Her name is Shay. Please go give her channel a follow and a subscribe, like, comment. She is awesome, and I love watching every one of her videos as well. And I'm really curious because she has quite a bit, not quite a bit, but she has a different taste in books than me. So I'm really curious to see what her answers are, because I feel like they will be very different, and like she just reads more variety than I do, so they will be less like fantasy related probably. So yeah, please go watch their videos. I will leave them linked down below, and again, please go follow them and just support everybody. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!